There's nothing more frustrating than feeling invisible to your husband. He barely notices you. You see him all the time checking out other women. It makes you feel inadequate and ultimately leaves you feeling like, what is it they have that I don't? I totally understand the pain that you're feeling right now. The truth is that men are wired completely different when it comes to attraction. And if you're applying the same techniques that you had before, then you're constantly going to feel like you're missing the mark on this front. So in today's video, I'm going to explain to you 5 things that men notice first when they're attracted to a woman and what they find wildly attractive. And let me be clear, this is not about changing who you are and becoming someone you're not. This is ultimately about getting a deeper understanding into male psychology. When you get that greater understanding of who he is, then it can help you to reconnect and develop that passion and that excitement and that connection that you've been missing for so long. Now, the first technique is what I call the 3-part thank you. Now, this technique has been extremely valuable for so many of my clients, and one I think you're going to find really, really helpful in your situation. See, so many men want to feel respected and unique and special. And a big part of that is actually knowing how to anticipate needs before they're actually even told what to do. But the ironic thing is that to start with, you kind of need to explain a little bit and help him to understand what those things are actually all about. What is it that he actually can do to help you to then make him feel significant and special in that moment? Now, in terms of this 3-part thank you, let's just break this down for a second. And the way we do that is apply a specific formula. And the formula goes like this: what he did plus how it helped you, plus what it shows you about him. Now let's think of an example here. Let's say he sorted out dinner for the night. Now if we apply this particular formula, we can approach it in this way. Firstly, what is it that he actually did? Thank you so much for sorting out dinner, hun. I really, really appreciate it. I really needed that after a big, long day at work. It's just made me feel so, so special. You always have this incredible ability to know exactly what I need when I don't even have to ask. Thank you so much. So in that situation, you've explained to him what he did, you've explained how it helped you, and you've then applied what it shows you about him. And so when you apply that, and he actually picks up on that, what it does is it reinforces to him that he's anticipated your needs and done something really special for you. And what do people do when they get more positive feedback? They want to do more of it. And this goes in any aspect of life. So make sure you apply this particular formula. It can make a huge difference in terms of your circumstances. Now, secondly, the 2-minute reset. See, men can pick up on a woman's energy as soon as they walk into a room. They'll know, they can feel it. As soon as you walk in the room, if something's not quite right, if you're feeling a little bit down or flat or whatever, they'll notice something. They may not be able to articulate it, but they will know what's going on. And so what has to happen here is there needs to be some shifts. And this is not about invalidating anything that you feel. It's about acknowledging that in any moment in life, all of us as human beings need to try and do our best to find a level of internal peace, which means we need to process our emotions in the best possible way. Now, let's say you are having a difficult time in your relationship. The more of that negativity that comes in, even though it's absolutely valid, the more it's going to create some of this pain in your situation right now. And we want to try and allow things to settle first, and then you can have the honest conversations about the challenges that you may be dealing with. But it doesn't work unless you're getting yourself into the right emotional state. So what I always suggest here is what we call the 2-minute reset. So if you have just had a busy day at work, or you're just feeling a little bit flat, and you walk in, or maybe he comes home from work, and you sense something's not quite right in you, if you sense that your energy is just a little bit off, then what I'd recommend you do is you go into a quiet room somewhere by yourself, you put your right hand on your heart, and you literally breathe from your heart for a couple of minutes, and you just imagine that the breath comes in and out of your heart. And what actually happens here is that when you do this for 2 or more minutes, your waves in the brain and in your heart actually become aligned. When we're stressed out, they're completely out of sync. When we actually do this for a couple of minutes, as they become aligned, it gives you a greater ability to access your own heart, access emotions of love, gratitude, acceptance, peace, and so on. Whereas when we're stressed out and we're freaking out, it makes it very difficult to have any clarity of thought. And this is a really, really wonderful technique, a technique that I still use to this day. If I feel myself getting a little bit tense, a little bit stressed, or whatever it may be, I allow myself to take a few minutes, breathe from my heart, really allow the energy to balance out, to relax. And then I know from that place I can have honest conversations, or I can have conversations which allow me to take an empathetic approach, or use the right words, or use the right tonality to be able to impact the other person in the best possible way. The third point is what we call a 70-30 balance. See, men are attracted to women who pay attention to them, say 70% of the time, but also 30% of the time they're putting a lot of their energy into things that they really enjoy. You see, if you're putting all of your energy into your relationship, then what happens is it comes across as desperate, it comes across as needy, and it comes across as though you don't have actually a solid, secure self within you. Men find that really, really unattractive. Now, having said that, if you're only putting your energy into yourself and never put your energy into him, then he will also feel uncomfortable and uneasy about that. He's going to feel like you don't really care, you've got no real interest in him, and so on. So it is about striking this right balance. And what I've observed is if you can put in about 70% of your energy into him and into the things that bring him joy and into growing the relationship, it's not just about him only, it's about how you two can actually grow as a couple together, then that naturally elevates the levels of attraction. At the same time, you're putting all this beautiful energy into things that matter to you, whether it be your business, whether it be hobbies of yours, whatever it is, make sure you put that time into you as well. I cannot stress how important it is to put that time and energy into those things, not only for the relationship, but for yourself more importantly. So make sure you're applying this tonight. So if you're spending some time with him tonight, you're watching a movie or whatever it may be, you might watch that and then afterwards say, hey, Lon, look, I might just go upstairs. I just want to read a book, or I feel like playing on my DJ decks, or I want to go and do some knitting or whatever the hell it is. It doesn't matter. Just spend that time for you, and it starts to value you and make sure that, you actually are prioritizing you. Because remember, we teach others how we wish to be treated. Might be an uncomfortable thing to hear at some points, but it's so true. The more that we allow ourselves to set standards, then the other person actually picks up on that standard and starts to adjust their behavior and so on according to that. So really make sure that you're putting your time and energy into you as well. Fourthly, ask questions that make him feel respected. See, a lot of guys love it when their opinions and when their insights are actually valued. It makes them feel significant, it makes them feel respected, and so on. The problem is that a lot of men don't understand how to communicate to their wife or partner. And so they'll just go off and just, oh, you should try this or you should do that. And they won't recognize that maybe in that moment, the partner only just wants to be heard. They just want to be understood. They don't want to be fixed, and they don't want advice in that moment. And so there's often a lot of tension when it comes to the communication piece. But with that knowledge in mind, I want you to think about 3 questions that you can actually start to ask your husband that can actually help to elevate him and make him feel respected. Now, the first starts off with, what do you think about, and whatever the topic is. That tells him that you value his opinion. Secondly, how did you learn to? That shows that you really admire his skills, whatever that may be. And thirdly, what would you do about X? And that really shows that you trust his judgment. Now, if you can really apply these questions, it can really help to elevate his levels of feeling respected and unique and special. Actually, one of my clients, she was telling me about how one time she was in a cafe and she didn't know what to order. So she asked a guy that was behind her. He said, hey, listen, I've never been to this cafe. Can you recommend anything? And he walked in, he was like, oh yeah, wow, I really, really love the Eggs Benedict, or I love this and this and this. And it just, you could see that it just gave him this reason to share his opinion, and it made him feel respected and all of that sort of stuff. And it's really, really powerful. And I'm talking about deeper level emotions. You might think of this as just quite a simple example, but they're really profound. Men love to assist on that front because they know that if they do this and the other person values it, it makes them feel happy. Men love to make their woman happy. So really start to apply some of these things, especially about topics that are important to him. And you just watch how he just slowly starts to shift in terms of his energy in the moment. And finally, the surprise factor. Like all of us as human beings, we tend to remember something that is unexpected in life. And so if there are certain patterns that you guys have been getting into on a regular basis, come up with something that breaks that pattern. In other words, make it a surprise. If you've been getting into a habit of criticism and so on, that's by no means a criticism towards you. It's just sometimes we get into habits because we're in pain. And when we're in pain, we always do things that we think are going to help us to get more control or get a reaction out of that particular person, just so we get some sort of connection. But like the previous example, if you can ask a question that really gains some interest from him, or if you give him some praise and something that makes him feel really special, then that's going to act as a little bit of a surprise factor for him. And then once you start to gain momentum with those things, once you start to observe and get feedback, not necessarily direct feedback from him, but what you're observing in terms of his behaviors, then you can make the necessary tweaks and shifts to start getting some momentum on that front. That's what we want to be doing. We want to get momentum. And how we get that is it requires someone to take the lead. And I know it's frustrating. You're probably wanting him to step up, but if you're watching this video, you're the courageous one that's actually wanting to grow and wanting to get better. So I encourage you to start taking some of this action and really incorporate a little bit of surprise factor into your relationship. To do that, you've got to understand how you've been operating now and really start to break that pattern and operate in a different way that is going to be true to you and not something that's fake and disingenuous on any level. Now, the problem with relationships is there's so many nuances, there's so many little intricacies of things. And because a lot of us haven't been taught how to operate in relationships, and we don't know what to say and when to say it and how to pick the moment and what are signs that he's actually coming towards you and what signs that he's actually backing off and so on, it makes it very difficult. And even applying some of these techniques that I've talked about, yes, they're helpful, but we need to make sure we're employing them in the right order and with the right approach and with the right energy. And that can make it a little bit challenging sometimes. So if it's something where you're feeling like there's a level of confusion or uncertainty on how to move forward with this, then I'd love to speak to you personally just to learn a little bit more about your situation, understand where you are now and where you want to get to, and how we can actually begin to start applying some of these strategies to really take your relationship to the next level. And not just your relationship, but help you to grow to that next level and be the best version of you as well. So what I encourage you to do is in the description section below, just click on that link that just says book a call with me. Just click on that link, choose a time that suits you, and then I'll contact you and we can discuss a little bit more about your circumstances. And look, whether or not you choose to work with me, that's absolutely fine, but we'll have a really good understanding of where you are and the things that you need to actually start doing in order to move forward and take your relationship to the next level. And if you've liked this video, make sure you hit that like button below. If you want to get more videos like this, hit that subscribe button. And what I recommend you do is if you want to learn a little bit more about some of the feminine traits that men find wildly attractive, just click on this video below. Thank you so much. God bless, and I'll talk to you in the next video.